It's everyone's favorite video. We're doing quarterbacks, we're doing tight ends, we're doing defense all in one spot. We're ranking all of these position groups heading into week 2. Who has the best matchups? Who should you start? Who should you sit? Who should you cut? I mean, listen, man, if these guys don't perform, they gotta go. You know what I'm saying? Smash like, subscribe, and please help us out as a small channel. Really appreciate every single like, every single subscription to the channel. It's free, helps us out immensely. So, starting things off with the S tier quarterbacks. Josh the Alien Allen is coming off of a massive week, and I don't really think there's a way where you can bump him down from S tier. They take on the New York Jets, who just gave up 4 touchdown passes to Aaron Rodgers. Now, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is bad. In fact, he's great. Like, last year was definitely a down year. He's getting up there in age, but if Aaron Rodgers throws for 4 tutties, I am all in on Josh Allen. 33 of 46. He had 2 touchdown passes, also 14 rush attempts for 30 yards and 2 tutties versus the Ravens in a massive win. I have Josh Allen above Lamar. Lamar Jackson also had a solid game, really solid against the Buffalo Bills. They obviously lost that game, but from a fantasy perspective, he had, only 19 pass attempts, pretty low, 14 completions, 2 passing tutties, 70 rushing yards on 6 attempts, and a tutty. These guys are an S tier in a class of their own. Now, the Ravens have a tough matchup against the Cleveland Browns, but in 6-point passing formats, which I know doesn't really matter for Lamar, he had around 27 points on average last year versus the Browns. So still definitely a starting quarterback. I mean, Josh Allen, Lamar, if you're questioning them, you're trolling. Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. Now, Jalen Hurts takes on the Kansas City Chiefs. Hurts had a very nice week 1 in terms of rushing upside. I'd like to see him take a step forward in passing attempts and deep attempts versus with A.J. Brown. With, his main deep completion was to Jahan Dotson. It was like a 45-yard pass, and then A.J. Brown weren't targeting. So that's a bit concerning. Taking on the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead, I think they'll have to air the ball out a little bit more. The Chiefs stop Saquon in the Super Bowl. If that happens again, we'll see him target A.J. Brown. Joe Burrow might have to bump down the rankings. I had him higher ranked than Jayden Daniels going into week number 1. And that might have to change. But the Bengals, they take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. If the Bengals can't figure it out versus Jacksonville, then I don't know what. So Joe Burrow, while I am going to move him down a spot, I do think that this is somebody with high upside this week. I'd definitely be excited. Jayden Daniels, good rushing upside in week 1. Not necessarily the passing touchdown, the passing touchdowns you would have liked to see, not necessarily the passing volume, but he played well. They take on the Packers. Now, the Packers defense is a bit concerning, so honestly, Jayden Daniels and Joe Burrow are still interchangeable in my ranking, but for the rushing upside alone, I like Jayden Daniels where he is. Patrick Mahomes. Pat Mahomes had, the rushing upside he showed off in week 1 was very high. He actually had 57 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. He also had 260 passing yards and a touchdown passing. And that was without Xavier Worthy. So now they know they have no Worthy. They're going to definitely script this game a little bit differently. Maybe we see more rushing attempts. Pacheco only had 5 rushes, which would actually hurt Mahomes. They faced the Eagles' stout run defense, the Eagles' stout defense. Mahomes, I like him where he is as QB6. Kyler Murray had a big game against the New Orleans Saints. I like him right here. Justin Fields. Justin Fields' revenge game versus the Steelers. Dominant. Justin Fields looks like he could be a league winner in fantasy. He should be rostered. And unless you have one of the, 7 guys ahead of him, I would start him over all of these players. They take on the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills just gave up 40 points. The defense did not look good. The Jets are probably going to be playing from behind. Fields looked so good, man. This is a tempting start, even over Baker, even over Bo Nix, who I still have in C tier. I know they kind of had down games. Baker saved you with 3 passing touchdowns. Bo Nix, not as great, but I think they'll bounce back. Looking at D tier, the D tier players, Herbert, the wide receivers at his disposal. Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, the Big Q. If the Big Q has a great year, then Herbert's going to have a great year too, because that means he's throwing downfield touchdown passes. So Herbert, I liked it in a big way. Dak Prescott also looked really good, but the fantasy points weren't there, which is why Herbert bumped ahead of him. Goff, down week. Purdy, sadly, Purdy is banged up, so I'm actually going to bump Purdy down in these rankings. I think Goff can also be bumped down as well, maybe even behind Jordan Love. So Jordan Love, solid game versus the Detroit Lions, but they didn't have to pass. Like, they weren't motivated to pass after they already went up by 3 scores on the Detroit Lions. So they were able to kind of control the late third and fourth quarter of this game on the ground. CJ Stroud, I'm bumping him down, and I'm actually going to bump Like, I might be putting Trevor Lawrence ahead of Drake May and CJ Stroud. They both look pretty bad. I'm going to put Drake May ahead of T-Law for the rushing upside, but not a great week. And I think the quarterback rankings overall are pretty solid beyond that. Let's see how Caleb Williams looks on Monday Night Football. I haven't seen that game yet. It's the only game that hasn't been played when I'm making this video. There's a potential that I bump Caleb all the way up to even D tier, to be honest, depending on that game. Michael Penix Jr. also has to be bumped up in my rankings. I'm going to put him ahead of Trevor Lawrence. And he showed off some rushing upside. He did. Same thing with JJ McCarthy. The right to change that is all mine. Geno Smith also had a decent day. Tua Tagovailoa was trash. And Jackson Dart. It sounds like Jackson Dart might be getting a chance to play very, very soon. That's what Brian Daboll was arguing for to the ownership. They were saying, Brian Daboll said, listen, we should have Jackson Dart start. If that happens or not, I'm not sure. But I mean, maybe you don't start him. You don't start him in any world. This is the quarterback rankings going into this week. And honestly, if you have anybody below D tier, I'd be a little bit concerned. Maybe Drake May has some rushing upside. Maybe Sam Darnold in 6-point formats with JSN does something special. But really, E tier and below, I feel are streaming options, and D tier and up, these are the guys you want in your lineup. We're going to head over to tight ends now. Looking at the tight end rankings, a lot has to change. I still have Brock Bowers above Trey McBride. Now, Bowers did have a knee injury, but it says, he said that he should be fine. So I like him in a Monday Night Football late matchup, 10 p.m. against the Chargers. Trey McBride also had a solid day against the New Orleans Saints. Nothing to write home about, though. I mean, he had 9 targets. He had 6 catches, 61 yards. A solid day overall. But you didn't get the touchdown, and touchdown, receptions has been something he's lacked throughout his career. George Kittle is out for several weeks. So Kittle, not even rankable at this point, honestly, sadly. And his backup replacement, probably not exciting either, even though I did see that guy pop off to kind of win the game. Tyler Warren, it's too early to bump him up to S tier, but Daniel Jones is a 1-read quarterback. First read, not open, he dumps it down to either JT or Tyler Warren, so Tyler Warren at the top of A tier feels good. Sam Laporta got a lot of kind of garbage time points. Like the Packers defense was kind of giving them some checkdowns, like over the middle stuff, like 10 yards, 8-yard catches. Laporta got involved late in that game. Yeah, solid day. Travis Kelce in A tier. He actually played to this ranking in week 1. Only 2 catches though, and he saved his day from like a 40-yard touchdown reception. He kills Xavier Worthy. If Xavier Worthy's out, Kelce has to be bumped up these rankings. Rashee Rice is out, so I feel like Kelce has to be ranked where he is. If not, then who? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I know that Kelce's washed, and I'm not excited. Like, you can honestly, what we're going to do? Everybody you see here is bumping down a tier. Hawkinson, I have not seen play yet, but Warren and Laporta are firmly in A tier themselves, and that's where they belong. Now, Mark Andrews, I mean, if Isaiah Likely's not back, then Andrews does project out to have volume, but he only had 1 catch for 5 yards in Sunday Night Football in a big matchup. So Andrews has to be bumped down these rankings, but who do you put there? Like, Ingram is hurt with a calf strain. We'll see how that comes out. Tucker Kraft didn't have many targets. It seems like the tight ends did not have a very good week. You know what I'm saying? Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to put Kyle Pitts with the Drake London injury. I get it. Darnell Mooney's coming back. This might be me falling for the mousetrap. But I think Kyle Pitts is a startable fantasy football tight end against the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday Night Football. So I'm going to put Pitts up here in B tier. I'm going to assume Hawkinson did all right on Monday Night Football. I think Kraft and Njoku are fine where they are. Njoku to bounce back. Andrews is actually going to be bumped down a whole tier. He's honestly kind of touchdown or bust anyway. Dallas Goedert did have a solid game. We'll put Goddard a little bit higher. We'll put Ferguson a little bit higher. Ertz comes down with the touchdown for the Commanders. He's streamable. I haven't seen Loveland play just yet. Brennan Strange. Now, what's interesting here is I don't remember seeing Brennan Strange at all. He had 4 targets. He caught all 4 of them for 59 yards. A decent day. He's streamable. You don't want to start him, but you can. Okonkwo did absolutely nothing. I'm bumping him down a tier. Cade Otton might not have been healthy. He had 0 catches on 3 targets. Got to bump him down a whole tier. Dalton Kincaid, big time riser. Where do you put Dalton Kincaid at? He had 4 targets, 4 catches for 48 yards, but he hauls in the touchdown pass. So I'm going to throw him a little bit. I'm going to put him ahead of Brennan Strange. You can see we're dry. It is dry at the tight end position. Harold Fannin Jr. is going to be coming in. ahead of Mara. We'll put him behind. We're going to put Harold Fenton Jr. right behind Dalton Kincaid. And honestly, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Yeah, I mean, he's coming around like what, tight end 14 in the rankings for me. But Fenton Jr. is not a bad stream. He ran a route on 85% of pass plays for the Browns. And he was targeted 30% of the time when he ran a route. So he had a very, very good rookie game debut. He actually outplayed Njoku. So that's something to definitely monitor there. Cade Otton and Okonkwo, Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry has to be somebody we bump up the rankings. It seems like he's a very startable fantasy football tight end in the future moving forward. He had 8 targets. He brought in 4 of them for 60-something yards. I'm going to put Hunter Henry up here, probably at the top of C tier. He seemed like a pretty solid option. Now, is there anybody else that I am missing? It looks like we covered all of them. Like, there's definitely some guys down here that could be lower. Like, do we put Juwan Johnson in? We're going to. I'm going to throw Juwan Johnson. Interestingly enough, I'm glad I didn't miss him. I'm putting Juwan Johnson. I can't put him in B tier. I can't put Juwan in B tier, but after the performance I saw where he had, 11 targets, he could have had 100 receiving yards and a touchdown if he hauled in that game-winning touchdown. Juwan Johnson had a hell of a day. With Spencer Rattler, anything can happen. I think Juwan Johnson could repeat history and have a solid year, especially if Rattler throws for 40-plus pass attempts per game. Is that likely? No, but I'm putting Juwan Johnson as a big-time Week 2 riser. The Saints are going to be down. The Saints are going to have to be putting up points, so I like where he was. Now, you could argue, put Noah Fant on this list. He had 4 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown. I can't be asked. Jonnu Smith, I will put on this list, though. And Jonnu Smith is going to be coming in here at the top. We'll put him at the bottom of C tier. You can see C tier is pretty big. But between Jonnu and Freiermuth, it's not exciting. They hinder each other's upside. There is the Week 2 tight end rankings. We'll throw Likely on there in case he's injured. We'll have the injury guys down here at the bottom of D tier. We're going to head over to defenses now. We got 12 of the best defenses. And we look at the Week 2 defensive streaming options. S tier is only one team this week. It's the San Francisco 49ers. They play the New Orleans Saints, and the Saints, they look better than expected versus the Cardinals, but the 49ers did have 12 fantasy points. They had a sack. They had 2 fumble recoveries. The defense looked pretty solid. They gave up 230 yards versus the Seahawks. Guess what? The Seahawks are better than the Saints. 49ers should have a good matchup right here against the Saints in Week 2. The Los Angeles Rams are going to come in at the top of A tier for me. They take on the Titans. Cam Ward did not look good. He was sacked a lot. The Broncos defense feasted in terms of sacks. The Rams pressured CJ Stroud a lot. They'll have a field day with the Titans. The Buffalo Bills. The Bills just dropped 40 points. How can they be in the top, in the top 3 defenses? Because honestly, they did have 2 forced fumbles. They did have 2 sacks. They gave up way too many yards, 430 yards. It was Lamar Jackson. Now, Justin Fields looked very, very good, so I'm a bit scared with this. But in terms of the matchups, the Bills defense, hopefully they rebound in some way, shape, or form. And I'm actually not confident in the Bills as much as the Rams. I'm going to bump them down to B tier. I think the Rams and 49ers are in a tier of their own this week. And then you kind of have some, mediocre middle of the pack. The Lions versus the Bears. Now, I haven't seen Monday Night Football just yet with the Bears versus Vikings. The Lions had only 3 fantasy points. They held the Packers to 270 yards, if you can believe it. But they have a better matchup versus the Bears in my eyes. And this game is actually going to be the home opener for the Lions. Should be bouncing in Detroit. The Denver Broncos take on the Indianapolis Colts. The Broncos had a field day versus the Titans. 6 sacks, 2 fumbles recovered, and only 12 points allowed. I'm actually going to bump the Broncos ahead of the Lions. The Baltimore Ravens have a matchup with the Cleveland Browns. It's not super exciting, but Joe Flacco, Flacco only scored 16 points. Could have scored more if the kicker did not sell, but the Ravens should bounce back on defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers have the worst defense performance I've ever seen in my life, but they take on the Seattle Seahawks. Really, all these teams down here, it's just it's kind of like throwing a shot in the dark, but the Broncos should go at the top of B tier in my eyes, and this is good. And I'd be happy starting the 49ers, Rams, or Broncos. Any of the other scrubs, I don't really care about. Looking at the Arizona Cardinals here, the Cardinals, who do they match up against in week number 2? The Cardinals match up against the Panthers, so that's a good one right there. That is a matchup I will be targeting. And the Cardinals defense versus the Saints, they had 1 sack. They only gave up, 13 points, but they did give up a lot of yards. So the Panthers, if the Panthers put up 260 yards this game, wouldn't be surprised. They could have been pushed 300, but the Cardinals, they do seem like my favorite 4th option for the week. The Dallas Cowboys defense, they honestly played above average versus the Eagles. So I think that with the Giants and that bottom barrel offense, I'm going to put the Cowboys in here at defense number 5. The Minnesota Vikings, again, we'll see how they play on Monday Night Football, but the Vikings have a better matchup versus the Falcons. And then we have the Patriots and Dolphins. This just seems like a game that one of these teams is going to score 6 points. I don't know which, so that's why they're both down here at team 11 and 12. That's defense, man. So we got quarterback, we got tight end, we got defense. Those are the week 2 rankings in the book. Smash, subscribe, man. Let's go have a hell of a week.